The US government recently suggested outlawing vintage automobiles by 2025. Yes, your favorite classics might be prohibited. This audacious action has provoked indignation, posing queries regarding history, freedom, and the automobile culture's future. Why this time, and what's actually behind this contentious choice? Is this possible? The end of a collecting era? Keep an eye on Discover the Truth. We are very close to 50 subscribers. Help us to achieve this figure. What's going on? Imagine discovering one day when you wake up that it is illegal to drive a beloved vintage car anymore. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? Okay. You might be surprised to learn how close that day is. The US government has been thinking about police, a proposal that has left fans of vintage cars unable to believe it. Fundamentally, the plan seeks to outlaw vintage automobiles. First, let's unpack what we know. Reports from Washington suggest that lawmakers are debating a sweeping environmental policy that includes banning the use of vintage cars on public roads. Their argument? These classic beauties, despite their charm, significantly more pollution compared to modern vehicles or EVs. Advocates say it's a necessary step to combat climate change. But to really understand what the carbon footprint really is, meaning what really happened at the site when a car was landed, we first have to clue in on. Opponents, however, are calling it a direct attack on personal freedom and a cultural heritage theft. But is this just another headline grabber, or are we really at risk of losing an iconic piece of Americana? The government's reasoning centers on emissions. It's no secret that older cars built before strict emission standards release more pollutants into the atmosphere. With transportation accounting for nearly 29% of greenhouse gas emissions in the US, policymakers argue that cracking down on high-polluting vehicles is a necessary step toward a greener future. As we dig deeper, the controversy only gets more intense, investigating the rationale for this proposal and its broad ramifications. Let's discuss the arguments for the environment that have prompted this audacious suggestion for in-vehicle. Arguments: does outlawing vintage vehicles actually save lives, the Earth, or is there a more significant backstory? This push for the environment. Environmentalists assert that the prohibition on vintage vehicles is an essential step to fulfill ambitious climate targets. With states such as California is at the forefront of the push for zero emissions policies, it seems that the federal government is drawing inspiration from these groundbreaking initiatives. Traditional automobiles, frequently constructed prior to strict emissions introduced standards, and are viewed as the guilty parties. When fighting greenhouse gas emissions, the Air Resources Board of California has been an important figure in forming these policies. By encouraging urban areas to have zero emission zones, the board seeks to restrict the amount of completely gas-powered automobiles. Advocates of this plan contend that retiring traditional automobiles will cut emissions and open the door for transportation that is more sustainable and clean. However, detractors have noted stark inconsistencies. Although the emphasis is on old cars, much higher emissions are produced by cruise ships, private aircraft, and business activities. The query is raised: are vintage vehicles being unfairly singled out because are they a convenient scapegoat? Ultimately, these cars are only driven on special times, causing their influence on the environment insignificant in comparison to regular commuter vehicles. The numbers as classic cars are where the true irony is found. May not even be the main issue. If the environmental argument is questionable, what about the effects of a vintage car ban on the economy? It is certainly the comparative car ban on the economy. It seems almost little considered nowadays that cars are taken away in the ban on the economy. Economic repercussions. Would a prohibition on vintage vehicles be more detrimental to the economy than anyone expected? The market for collector cars is expanding faster than ever. The market for collector cars is expanding. The market for collector cars is worth billions of dollars. In the year 2021, it produced between $14 and $15 billion generated revenue, supporting innumerable jobs nationwide. From restorers and mechanics for event planners and auction houses, the environment around the world of vintage cars is extensive and interwoven. Car shows and auctions are examples of events that don't just entertain, they are essential to the economy. They are essential to the economy. Engines for numerous communities. Nearby companies, from lodging to dining establishments, frequently rely on the increase in tourists brought about by these events. For example, Monterey Car Week produces millions of dollars a year from tourism. A prohibition on car races, this entire industry could be crippled by vintage cars, causing financial instability for businesses and towns. In addition, vintage vehicles are subject to taxes when they are sold, registration, as well as improvements, which help greatly to local and state income. If this revenue stream disappeared, there would be an observable budget disparity. especially in states such as California, where the auto industry is essential to the financing of public services. In the end, this isn't just about cars. It's about history, culture, and choice. Will 2025 mark the end of the road for vintage cars, or will enthusiasts fight to keep their classics alive? Only time will tell. Until then, keep cruising, stay informed, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more updates on this developing story.